Hey, Dad. Mom has been going out on dates. Do you date anybody? We had opened my first bank account with money from my recent 14th birthday, a rite of passage he suggested. I was a little nervous asking him such a personal question, and I studied his face for signs of disapproval. I mean, do you have a girlfriend? I'm sure you could find one if you wanted to. He glanced over from behind the wheel and smiled as he pulled into the gravel parking lot of the townhouse I shared with Mom and my sister. Well, honey, that's a complicated question, but no, I don't have a girlfriend. Why not? I pushed, feeling like there was something he wasn't telling me. Terry joined most of our outings, but Dad never brought a date. Having a girlfriend doesn't fit in with my lifestyle. Let's just leave it at that. Lifestyle? Okay, Dad, I just thought. He gave me a look that said, enough, then leaned over to kiss my cheek. I'll talk to you soon. I'm happy we got your account set up today, he said. You sure are growing up. Say hello to your mother and Dina, he added before I pushed open the door. I will. As I walked up the porch steps, a thought stopped me in my tracks. Terry. Turning back to look for Dad's car, I caught only a glimpse of his taillight as he merged into traffic. He spends all his time with Terry. I realized I hadn't been to my dad's place in a couple of months. Did he move in? Oh my God, what if that's why Dad doesn't have a girlfriend? Suddenly, snippets of television references to men being queer ran rampant through my head. My stomach churned at the thought of what this might mean. I dropped my book bag inside the front door and went straight to the kitchen to call my mom. After dialing her number on the wall phone, my stomach ache worsened while it rang. What do I even want to know? DMAR Plating, this is Peg, she said from behind her desk in the small office where she was a secretary. Hi, Mom. So Dad dropped me off after school, and before he left, I asked him why he doesn't have a girlfriend. And he said, Lisa, do we need to talk about this now? I'm at work. I know, but yes, we do need to talk about this now. Dad didn't really give me a straight answer when I asked him. Something about his lifestyle, he said. I mean, what lifestyle? He hangs out with that guy Terry all the time, and I think he's moved in. There isn't even a spare room. I mean, that's pretty weird. I coiled the long yellow phone cord around my finger as I rattled on, forming a picture in my head I didn't really want to see. Lisa, please, we'll talk when I get home. Mom, I plowed ahead, unable to contain the question I wasn't sure how to ask. Does Dad like guys? I mean, like that? A growing panic seized me. Is he queer? The word felt like profanity when I said it to my mother. Please, I'm at work, Lisa. Please, can we talk about this when I get... Ma, I need to know now. He's my father. Tears stung my eyes as I waited for her answer, though I already knew the truth. All right. Her voice was not more than a whisper. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. My dad is a fag. A deep guttural laugh escaped me, turning to heaving sobs as I slid down the wall and sat on the floor, unable to catch my breath as any remnants of my childhood evaporated like drops of water on a hot stove. But Mom, I don't understand. I mean, how could he do this to us? Don't you hate him? Lise, come on. We'll talk tonight. Why don't you go to Mrs. McCall's and wait there until I pick you up after work? I don't want you home alone right now. Her insistence that I go to her best friend's house was a gentle order, not a suggestion. And please, don't tell your sister. Do you hear me? Please. I'll have someone pick her up from practice. Her voice changed in a way that told me someone was standing at her desk. We'll talk about it when I get home, okay? Now, go to Mrs. McCall's. But I have to go. It'll be okay. We'll talk later. I reluctantly hung up, then ran toward Maureen McCall's house. the heaviness of my new discovery crushing my chest. My dad is queer. I didn't even fully know what that meant. All I knew was what I had heard Archie Bunker say about queers and fags. They're fairies. As I ran, each tiny piece of information I had ever heard about homosexuality began to fit together all at once, revealing the whole picture like a jigsaw puzzle. Dad seemed utterly comfortable in a room full of women. At a party, he hung out with the wives instead of drinking beer with the men. He didn't watch ball games and was meticulous about cleaning. Don't make me do a white glove test, he warned, while overseeing Saturday morning chores. He might have been joking, but I never doubted a white glove could be produced at any time to challenge my diligence. He liked things to be perfect and taught me how to comb the fringe of the oriental rug with an actual wide-tooth comb. He's always been different from other dads, I thought as my feet pounded the pavement. He's never golfed or wrenched on cars. Instead, Dad sang and danced his way through anything goes as a stowaway belting out, "You're the top," dashing in white trousers and a navy jacket. I was so proud to be my father's daughter on that opening night, thrilled by the chaos and glory of being backstage at the theater. Now that I knew his lewd secret, I felt ashamed. Our whole life has been an act. How could he betray us like this? The late sun cast long shadows of the bare trees as I traveled block after block, tears clinging to my cold face. A memory from the year my parents divorced played like a movie in my head, of the night before Easter when I woke up to hear my mother crying softly in the living room. Sneaking down the stairs, I found her hiding Easter eggs, alone. It was after midnight and Dad was still out. She was startled, caught in front of the mantel, a blue plastic egg in her hand, poised to disappear behind a picture frame. She stifled a sob when I hugged her waist. "Are you okay?" I asked. She nodded, and we stood there for a long time. Then she sent me back to bed, her eyes red. I cried myself to sleep that night when it dawned on me how often my father went out without her. Where did he go on those nights out? I stopped running to catch my breath, bent over and held my knees, my lungs burning. Did he go to gay bars? The thought repulsed me as I pushed away the image of a bar full of men drinking and dancing together, making out in a dark corner of the room. Is that how he met Terry? With a couple of blocks left to go, I slowed to a walk, letting the pieces connect and make sense of things I didn't understand before. A snapshot flashed in my mind of sitting on the hand-me-down sofa in Dad's studio apartment a few years before, while my parents were separated. I was 10 years old and desperately wanted to know why he left us. He told me there were things I was too young to understand. He left because he liked men. Did Mom know then? A year later, they got back together. All my anxiety over losing my daddy vanished when he moved us into the beautiful house in Oak Park. We were happy there for 3 years until Dad started going out without Mom. What a shock it was when he sat us down on the white brocade couch and told us they were getting divorced. "We still love each other, and of course we love you girls," he said. My mother nodded quietly. Bereft, I begged to know why he and Mom would break our world apart. They didn't even have a good reason. Now I know why. "Hi, Dad," I said, shaking off the December chill. The room felt dark, cozy. "Hi, honey. Let me take your coat." I heard Robert before I saw him. Then he emerged through the kitchen doorway to the left, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Robert, this is my daughter Lisa," Dad said, an expectant look moving back and forth between us. "Hello." He held out his hand for me to shake. Tall and thin, he looked a lot like Dad's most recent ex, who he now referred to as asshole. "Hi, nice to meet you." I was still uncomfortable meeting my father's lovers. Robert took a tweed coat off a hook near the door. I'll be back in a few hours, Don. You two have a nice time. He smiled at me as he went out the door, taking a good part of the discomfort with him. Once my father and I settled in for the evening at their table overlooking Polk Street, a bottle of white Zinfandel underway in front of me, I started talking about how I felt about my parents' divorce. I couldn't stop. Halfway through the first glass of wine, I casually asked the question that had clenched my heart for a decade. So why did you even get married? Dad looked startled by my bold question. I wanted to be married, have a family. That's what everybody wanted in the 50s. He lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly, then placed it in the ashtray beside the one I was already smoking. I loved your mother. We were friends. I knew we could have a happy life. We had you girls, and my career took off. Life was good until something changed. There are a lot of things you don't know. I poured more wine as the first glass kicked in. His explanation sounded self-serving and unfair to my unsuspecting mother, whose eyes shimmered with pain when mentioning Dad during her visit. It made me wonder what lay beneath her composed veneer. How dare you lead Mom to believe you were in love with her? He looked at me. And what things I don't know? Out the window, the flickering red light of a neon sign in the market across the street distracted me from his answer. Downing my glass and pouring more, I realized I was getting drunk and thought I heard something about Daniel and Betty, my parents' best friends since high school, who had been like an aunt and uncle to me when we were little. And so we met on Monday nights while the girls had ladies' night at our house with you girls. Then Betty wanted a baby, and they were trying to get pregnant. Daniel said he couldn't do it anymore, wanted to focus on his family. Dad and Daniel? All those years ago when we were little kids? For a moment, I thought about how long my father had endured hiding who he was, what it must have been like to live a lie like that. I remembered him once telling me of his attraction to Tarzan when his friends drooled over Jane. He said he had kept it to himself, except for Daniel, apparently. Still, I couldn't focus on anything but my mother's pain and humiliation. Any inkling my mother may have had that something was amiss was likely a whisper that didn't interrupt too much of their daily life. Perhaps remaining blind to the secrets in her marriage was far less painful than learning the truth. But when Dad's secret was shouted into the daylight, it changed everything. Since then, watching her husband live an openly gay life was mostly a quiet matter for her. But not me. I bit my tongue while he continued his story. So I looked elsewhere. Rex at work and I started flirting, and it was my transition to a whole new world. That's when your mother and I separated the first time. My memory of opening the medicine cabinet to find his things gone when I was 10 years old flashed through my mind, dropping another puzzle piece into place. Through the haze of my buzz and my shock, I could hear him still talking. As exciting as it was to finally be honest about my life, I decided to come home a year later and try to make it work with your mother. It was too hard to be out back then, financially and hiding it at work, of course. It was easier to be married, and I loved living with your mother and you girls. Tears filled my eyes as those hours of yearning for him came flooding back. Just like that, I was a child again, waiting for his calls, praying for him to come home. We got the house in Oak Park, and I poured my passion into decorating it. Eventually, I went back to the bars. For a while, I had the best of both worlds. But when I told your mother and suggested we stay married, she said she wouldn't agree to a double life. You know the rest. The words I wanted to express during his story had backed up like raw sewage. I wanted to spew every vile word at him through the fire hose of my fury. I couldn't breathe until I said them all, until the stench of my pain was all over him. How could you believe that Mom could be happily married to a guy who secretly wants to fuck other men? I screamed. Lisa! He glowered at me. How could you do that? How could you do that to Mom? Pity for my mother fueled my rage. No woman wants her man to leave her and her kids, and especially not for a guy. Holy shit, Dad. Or worse, let him stay and make her live a lie. You don't understand what it was like for me. He spoke in the monotone he reserved for his deepest anger, the one he used before doling out punishment. No, I don't. I drained the rest of the bottle into my glass. But I can imagine how Mom felt. You totally compromised her sexuality. Dad, I mean, she was a virgin. She was only 19 when you got married, for God's sake. Fuck, I shouldn't have even been born. Lisa, that's enough. How dare you? I told you, I loved her. I always will. Now stop it. I couldn't. How could you get back together with Mom and move us to Oak Park? How many lies did you have to tell her to convince her you'd changed? He didn't answer. He lit another cigarette, his hands shaking. Smoke hung in a bitter fog around us, mingling with the too sweet candle. It made me nauseous. Now you move in with a guy you met for a weekend? What the fuck? Do you think for a second if me or Dina did this, you would be cool with it? Hell no. You insisted we make informed decisions. You taught us that. Is this informed? How much do you even know about this guy? He stared at me, then attempted to jump in to defend himself. But I put my hand up to stop him. I'm not done. Every impulsive thing I ever did was scrutinized by you. All my life, you punished us for lying. What you say doesn't mean shit to me now that I know you lied your whole life. I spoke like a grown-up about grown-up things, wanting to shock him, to make him hear me after a decade of holding in so many conflicting feelings. I wanted to hurt him as badly as I hurt. You're crazy to be doing this, Dad, and you know what? Who fucking cares? Go ahead, do your thing. Hope you're happy. I slumped back in the chair, exhausted. The neon outside the window blurred to an angry red smear as my head spun with words and wine. I am happy, damn it. Robert makes me happy. He stared across the dimly lit room. I love him. I didn't really want to hear how much he loved Robert. This one-night stand he thought could last. Would he have done this with a woman if he were straight? That a woman would invite him to move in after a weekend seemed incomprehensible. This isn't normal. I wanted my parents to be normal, regardless of how exotic I wanted my own life to be. It may not have been fair, but I ached for a dad who would help me navigate the treacherous waters of young adulthood. One whose love I could trust, instead of this man who dished about boys like a girlfriend. I wanted my daddy back. He poured me into a cab and sent me home.